Hey guys, it's Gabe back here with another video for Team Psychic Size, and today I'm doing a League Cup deck profile and tournament report. So I was already maxed out on League Cups for this time, so I decided I was going to have fun, play something a little rogue, play something I was about to rotate, since this was going to be the last tournament I was attending in the Worlds format. So I decided on playing Vespiquen. Now, Vespiquen, it's an interesting deck. It didn't see much popularity at Worlds. I originally got this list from Rahul over at the Chaos Gym. I'll leave a link in the description to their channel if you want to go check that out. But, yeah, I decided on playing Vespiquen with some interesting tech choices you're about to see. So, going into the deck profile, we have a 4 line of Vespiquen. For those who don't know what Vespiquen does, it's attack for a double colorless energy, 20 plus 10 more for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So in this deck, you're playing, I believe, 28 Pokemon, or 27, something along those lines. And it's very interesting. Since you use a lot of cards to discard Pokemon, things like Professor Sycamore, Ultra Ball, Acrobike. So yeah, we'll get into more of this deck profile here. We also play 4 copies of Unknown with the ability Farewell Letter. If it's on your bench, then you can discard it and draw a card. It helps to get an extra 10 damage in your discard pile. And then we are playing a 2 line of Bisharp. This is something that the original list I saw did not play. Bisharp, for those who don't know what it does, Bisharp for 1 colorless energy, but you only play double colorless in this deck, so that's what you'll be using. It does 30 plus 60 more if one of the defending Pokemon, if one of your Pokemon, was knocked out last turn. So, with Bisharp, you use that against things like Gardevoir, since it is part metal type, with a Choice Band and a Professor Kukui. If one of your Pokemon is knocked out last turn, which it most commonly is, then you can return with this, attach a Choice Band, play a Professor Kukui, slap on a DCE, and you'll be one-shotting a Gardevoir GX. Without the Kukui, you can be one-shotting a, for example, Ninetales GX, if that sees popularity. I know it won the senior division at the World Championships, and with evolutions and stuff that we're playing, you can also one-shot things like Volcanion, Decidueye with the Choice Band. Let's get on to the rest of this deck profile. So we have 2 Shaman, just straight up consistency. Use setup to draw 6 cards, draw up to 6 cards, sorry, my bad. And it just helps you mill and dig through your deck to get more Pokemon in the discard and attack for larger numbers. And then we're playing 2 Tapu Lele GX with the ability Wonder Tag. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you search your deck for a supporter card. And then there's Energy Drive, 20 times the amount of energy attached to both Pokemon. In other decks, it's more common to use, but in this deck, it isn't very common since you're hitting big numbers already with Vespiquen. And then we have 2 of the Ancient Origins Eevee. That's the better one in this deck since you're not going to be using the new Energy Evolution one. And then you play 1 Vaporeon. When this is in play, all your stage 1s become fire types, which helps you to one-shot Volcanions, Turtonators, etc. And then you play 1 Flareon, which helps you to one-shot things like Metagross and Decidueye. And then we have our one-ofs in, well, those were some one-ofs, but the rest of our one-ofs in the Pokemon line, we have 1 Tapu Koko promo. Getting the spread off is really helpful if you can't get the Kukui off with Bisharp against Gardevoir. At the beginning of the game, you just spread 20 onto everything, and then you don't even need the Kukui for Bisharp. And then we have 1 Oranguru. Say you have 1 prize card left, there's a late game end, puts you down to 1 card in hand, and you have an Ultra Ball, and then you draw another card, and it's nothing, and you can't play the Ultra Ball. You can always use Oranguru's ability, Instruct, draw until you have 3 cards in hand, which allows you to draw a couple extra cards in these scenarios, which can help you to get going during the late game. Then we have 1 Mr. Mime. This is mainly to prevent Coco spread against you. It really helps because Vespiquen, say you have your opponent has Magma Base out or something, and you're down to 20 HP on all your bench, and then you get hit with a cocoa spread, then you're not looking great. So you can use this Mr. Mime to prevent that. If I was to do the tournament over, I would not play Mr. Mime in my list, purely because I actually did not use it once. There was I don't think there was a single person in the entire senior field who was playing a Coco promo on their deck. But moving on from that, we have 4 Professor Sycamore, just maximum consistency. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards, which allows you to discard a lot of your Pokemon as well, allowing you to hit for larger numbers. 2 Guzma. Now, a lot of people may say, oh, play Lysander in this deck because you have free retreat. Why would you use Guzma? But the thing is, if you have something else stranded in the active, you play Guzma to go into your free retreater. And as well as bringing up another one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And then we have 1 N. This is probably the lowest count of N you'll see in a deck. Because N is just maximum consistency, and in this deck you don't have a lot of room for it, especially since you're shuffling your hand into your deck. And in this deck you want to be discarding Pokemon, not shuffling them back into your deck. And then we have 1 Professor Kukui. As I said earlier, it really helps out with your numbers on Bisharp and even other times in Vespiquen. I know many times this weekend I use this card. And then we have Teammates. When one of your Pokemon is knocked out, you search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. This can help you get like the Vespiquen DCE and whatever you need to really like up the damage and get your attackers out. Then we have 4 Ultra Ball, just maximum consistency. Discard 2 cards from your hand, which can commonly be Pokemon you're not using. And that will definitely help out with getting larger attacks. And then we have 4 Acrobike. Acrobike says look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put 1 in your hand and discard the other, which allows you to discard Pokemon and hit for larger amounts, and it's just maximum consistency too. It allows you to get more cards in your hand that you need to play. And then we have 3 VS Seeker. Allows you to get a supporter from your discard pile. This deck originally had played 4, but I feel like I needed more consistency among supporters, and I had to try and fit in the teammates. And to fit in the teammates, I dropped it down to 3 VS Seeker, and there wasn't many times at all, maybe once in the tournament did I wish I had a 4th, but usually 3 was typically fine. Then we have 2 Choice Band. Now before the tournament I really wanted 3, but I hadn't done a lot of testing with this deck, and I realized why there's only 2. Because you only need 2. Plus you don't have a ton of space for a 3rd. And it's completely fine just to play 2 Choice Band. It really helps out your numbers against large HP GXs. It allows you to do 30 more EXs and GXs, which drastically helps out your numbers. And then we have 2 Special Charge. It allows you to shuffle 2 special energies from your discard pile back into your deck, which is really helpful because we're only playing 4 double colorless energies. So you're definitely going to need to recycle them throughout the game. Then we have 1 Revitalizer. It allows you to get 2 grass Pokemon from your discard pile, put them back into your hand. And then to go along with that, to get a Pokemon back, we also have 1 Rescue Stretcher. You choose one of the options, either put a Pokemon from your discard pile back into your hand or shuffle 3 Pokemon from your discard pile back into your deck. Both can be helpful. I used both effects throughout the tournament. And then we have 1 Floatstone. Typically in past lists you'd play 1, but now that you have Guzma, you don't really need more than 2 Floatstone, or even 2 Floatstone. It's a tool card. It allows you to attach this to one of your Pokemon and it has free retreat. Then we have 2 Forest of Giant Plants, which helped me so much throughout the day, you wouldn't even believe it. It allowed me to get so many turn 1 knockouts on things like Vulpix in the Guardy matchup when I went second. It allowed me to knock out their Vulpix and they wouldn't get a beacon off. Well, if they rescue stretchered, they would get a beacon off, but every time they rescue stretchered it, I was actually able to end them, which was amazing. And this Forest of Giant Plants allows your grass Pokemon to evolve on the first turn. Unfortunately, it will be rotating in 5 days and then being banned and expanded. So I figured I'd give it one last hurrah, just like Vespiquen, who is rotating but not being banned and expanded. You may certainly see me playing Vespiquen and expanded. And then, as I said, we have 4 double colorless energy. Just use it to attack power up your attacks, attack other Pokemon. And now I'll put this camera over the list and I'll go into my tournament report. So round 1, I face a Golisopod Zoroark Evolutions deck, which you would think is a 50-50 matchup because you have Flareon here. But the person also played Oricorio on their list, which is deadly to Vespiquen, because it allows you to place 1 damage counter, which is 10 damage, anywhere you like on your opponent's field, for each Pokemon they have in their discard pile. So say you have 10 Pokemon in your discard pile, Vespiquen is hitting for 120 damage. Then they go, okay, Oricorio, attach 1 colorless energy, and I'm going to place 12 damage counters anywhere on your field and knock multiple things out, or even a Shaman EX, allowing them to take 2 prize cards. So game 1, I prized my Flareon actually, so it was really tough, especially since he was playing a 1-of copy of Bodybuilding Dumbbells, allowing his Golisopods to have 250 HP. So I really couldn't get around it easily with Flareon, and my start was slower than typically it is. And then game 2, I just completely had a dead hand for the first 3 turns of the game, and by the time I drew out of it, it was just too late. So I open up 0-1, and I'm thinking, why did I play this deck? This is bad. I really shouldn't be playing this. I probably won't win out, but hey, I'm just going to have fun for the rest of the day playing this crazy deck. So then round 2, I sit down and I'm playing against a Gardevoir GX deck. And this is a really interesting matchup. It's slightly favored for me as long as they do not play Oricorio, because you have the Bisharp, as I explained earlier. But game 1, my start was a little slow, and he got a really good start, and I couldn't catch up enough. And I couldn't hit the Kukui or the Coco spread at the right time against his Gardevoir GXs. So I really just couldn't one-shot them, and it was a tough match, and I couldn't pull it out. And then game 2 was very close, but I ended up pulling it out just barely. I pulled it out by the skin of my teeth. And then they had a timer there that was up. Usually most places don't do that. You shouldn't be doing that. But we looked up at the timer, and we saw that it said 1 minute left. So we were shuffling really fast. We set up with 20 seconds left. My opponent was going first, and by the time got called on his turn, on the first turn of the game, so he was turn 0, I was turn 1, he was turn 2, and I was turn 3. So it was basically that he had the outs to a Gardevoir to knock out the 1 Pokemon I had in the active, which was a Pawniard. So I played Professor Sycamore on my turn, and I needed to hit a basic Pokemon to draw out the tie. And I look at my hand, I draw my 7 cards, and I drop a Mr. Mime, a Coco promo, and 2 unknowns. And I said, did you want to call it a tie now? And he said, yes. So we were both 0-1-1. Since there's only 4 rounds in top 4, 2-1-1 would be on the bubble. So we both needed to win out to have a shot, and we might still not even make it at that point. So round 3, I face against someone playing Lycanroc. And that's just a super easy matchup. I steamrolled with Vespiquen the entire time since Lycanroc has weakness to it. We were done pretty quickly, and I got to relax and have some lunch before the next round. And then, so I go into round 4, and I'm facing a not super competitive deck. The person flips over Mewtwo EX that I think it's from Evolutions, but don't quote me on it. And for 4 energies, it does 110. And that was basically the attack he was using. And I went first. I had attached a double colorless energy, got a Combi, not quite a Vespiquen yet. And I Sycamored into a dead hand, plus a DCE. So I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I really hope I don't lose to this non-competitive deck. And then he starts, and he goes, okay, I'll Enhanced Hammer away the DCE on your active, and then play Team Skull Grunt and get another double colorless energy out of your hand. And since I had to burn both special charge on my first turn, I was terrified. I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose all my pride. I'm going to lose to this non-competitive deck. Oh no. And he ends up coming down to 2 prizes just because I'm purely drawing nothing, and he's hitting everything for 110, which is like perfect numbers. Finally, I hit something. I hit an Acrobike into a Sycamore, discard a ton of Pokemon, and I build up enough damage to knock out his Mewtwo. It was absolutely crazy, and I was able to win from there, but I was terrified going through. I was like scared that game so much. And then I start really well, draw incredibly well game 2, and just steamroll from there. And then so this is how it went. There was one person who was 301. 2 people who were 3-1. And then me and my round 2 opponent were both 2-1. So it's going to be between me and him to see who top 4. And I did the math. I didn't know if the computer was going to do it right or not, but by my math, I was in at 4th seed. Though I was nervous that I wasn't going to make it because my math and the computers have been wrong in the past. So I was hoping my math would be correct, and turns out it was. I was in at 4th seed, and in top 4, I was playing against a crazy rogue deck that was actually really, really good. So in top 4, I was playing against a Lurantis GX Garbotoxin Garbodor deck, which was actually amazing because it played things like Pokemon Center Lady, and Garbotoxin was shutting down all your abilities, including the ability of my Flareon. And as well, he played Bodybuilding Dumbbells, so he was swinging with a 250 HP Lurantis GX and healing every turn. And it was crazy. So it turns out that I won game 1. Game 2, he won. Every game was really close, and I just had to try and do a ton of damage. And then game 3, we didn't have a lot of time left, so we were playing relatively quickly. And it turns out that he prized 2 Lurantis GX in game 3, so I went on sweeping, and I think maybe even if he had only prized 1, it's really hard for him to pull it out at the point that we were at. And I ended up taking game 3 on turn 1 of time. And I moved on to the finals, where I was playing against a Gardevoir GX deck. And that was... my opponent got set up fine and stuff, and I was just able to stream attackers better than I had all day throughout both of the games. Stream Bisharps. They wouldn't get 1-hit knockouts, but they were easily getting 2-hit knockouts with the Vespiquen. And it turned out to be amazing, and I went on to win my 3rd League Cup out of the 3 I've gone to so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile and League Cup tournament report. This is Gabe, and I'll see you guys in the next video for Team Psychic Size.